If you have anxieties surrounding being within groups, you're fearful of that awkward, quiet moment, this is the video for you. And this is certainly the video that I should give a masterclass on, because I love conversing with people. I love interacting with people. Does that mean to say that I'm always really stoked to go to a cocktail style party? Not really. I think it does, even if you're good at it and you're not always in the mood, even if you are an extrovert, to converse and have small talk. But I think you can get around it. In this video, I'll give you some tools, tips and tricks about being in those situations and how to survive them. So if there was a video I was meant to talk a bit of a master class on, it would probably be this. I am I think a very good social speaker. I come by it naturally. From the time I was little, I remember 4 or 5 years old, conversing through the rodeo families, perhaps had something to do with getting goodies at each campsite along the way. But I think that was just the start of why I liked to go and visit people, all ages. And because of that, I feel like there's certain successes that I've had in my career because I can, one, be a bit of a chameleon, two, I'm very curious. And let's go through some of the reasons why I think being a good conversationalist, or how to become a good conversationalist, and take out some of the anxieties that we have surrounding this season that we're in. We're often see ourselves more in groups during the holidays, whether it's family, friends, corporate, small business, you name it. You just find yourself around probably more people than you do in most parts of the year. First of all, I want to say that there's a great saying that to be the most interesting person in the room is to be the most interested person in the room. And I think that saying is right on the money. Curiosity is the best part about being a good conversationalist. Certainly you don't, or you should not, go into a situation where you have all the things that you want to talk about yourself. This is not the plan to go into. We all know we can all talk about ourselves and about what we're doing. That doesn't make a great conversationalist. What makes a great conversationalist is someone who asks the question, that asks the good questions, not the yes or no. So first tool is, maybe instead of prepping about what you're doing and what you can say to others, what you can ask, and that is open-ended questions. That's how you get a flow of a conversation. So not how are you doing, it's more open-ended. Get someone to talk more about what they're doing. What's keeping you busy these days? What are you up to? And even sometimes I find even what are you up to, people will tend to just make that a very short answer. If they don't give you a lot on that, dive into something more open-ended to say, when you're not working, unless you want to talk about work, when you're not working, what is it that keeps you busy? Things like this. If you know the person, you can ask a bit more about more directed questions about perhaps what they're reading, what series are they watching. That's always good, because don't we all need tips about what everyone's enjoying on Netflix? That's always a fallback for sure. Talking about what people do in their spare time is always a good tip and trick. Ask the open-ended questions is a first tip. Secondly, when you receive, and this is being an active listener, not so active that you interrupt the person when they're speaking, but make a mental note. Oh, they mentioned that they grew up in Manitoba. Keep it in your memory to ask more about that at some point in the conversation. And again, I guess I am just pivoting from a lot of people go into rooms ready and to talk about what they're doing. And I guess that is the easy route. I don't know if it's COVID or if it's aging, but I find that people are really willing to chat about themselves a lot. You should assess your conversations, especially if it's a room and a party. If the person is more just focused on themselves, that is interesting. You can be super curious about so many things about a person willing to just talk about themselves nonstop, I think it's important to leave some quiet moments for them to perhaps pivot and ask you something. But if you're finding that it's super one-sided, maybe you want to move on and get a glass of wine, move on from the conversation, because I don't think that is so fulfilling if you just have someone that is so tilted on talking about themselves. So going back to it, being an active listener is a major pillar of having a good conversation, because it allows you to flow the conversation and really direct it. Ask the questions that flow from someone's speaking is, you should really base it on your curiosity about things that impact your life that they're speaking about, or maybe you're curious about, deep sea diving, or maybe they have a hobby that you're curious about. The other side of asking a good question is perhaps asking the empathetic side, the emotional questions about how does it make you feel when you do that, and get because you almost get to a deeper level of who the person is by asking emotional based questions. When I think about the emotional side of a conversation, it also leads me to a saying that I heard years ago. When someone remembers you, they remember you by not what you said, but how you made them feel. So it goes back to that emotional side of conversation. I think people know me and like me because I react to them. I do active listen. I find humor in a lot of what people say, especially if it's, the situation where we're at a party. And that's always fun for me. I think I'm comical, and I really do like to see life and humor in life. I find whether you're talking to a 10-year-old or an 80-year-old, the basis of conversing is the same. It's active listen, ask good questions. So if you're doing any prep work before any party, it wouldn't be about what you're going to say about yourself. It should be about interesting questions to ask. What good open, and maybe go into Google and see, based on the group of people that you're in, maybe it's some kind of association, and maybe there are some good tips for open-ended questions. But that brings me to my next point. Instead of being daunted by parties, be more excited about, almost like walking into a library, or almost treat people like, especially if you don't know them that well, that this is like going into several short stories or movies, because everyone does have a story to tell. And as you pry open the book and you start asking questions, think of it more in that imagery of people are just several stories put together. And that's my curiosity. I'm always fascinated by people, what they've been through. The other side of asking questions is perhaps there's something that you can understand, or they can teach you about life. Or be curious about things that may benefit you. Maybe there's something that you're working on, like if you are in some kind of club or association, seek out that question that you need answered. When you do think about, like-minded people, there is a wealth of information within a room. Maybe you are working on something that has you stumped. So think of it as what's in it for me, but in a nice way, about a curious way. And believe you me, people love telling you and instructing you how they did something. I even find this with elders throughout my years. I've always been curious about the past and what people have gone through. I find this so fascinating to ask questions, and detailed questions about what it felt like, and sometimes it can, you have to pick your moments of when you're asking this, especially if it is going to be an emotional moment. But I find it fascinating, and I've loved asking grandparents, aunts and uncles about their travels, about how they, my grandmother told me a lot about their farm and picking rocks off the farm for the very first time. The land had never been sowed and harvested, and they were, besides the First Nations people that might have walked it, they, including my mom and her siblings, picked rocks off of that dirt and got it ready for its first harvest. Frame it differently in your mind is a really big tip. Think of it as a library or a set of short films that you're exploring, as opposed to being daunted by, oh my God, it's the first time I've met these people or in-laws. When you go into it with a good attitude, it shows. Be curious, show emotion, empathy, humor is the best. And I think I make people feel good about having a chat with me, because I bring those qualities to the conversation. And I'm going to keep this short and sweet. It's before Christmas. I want to launch this video before Christmas to perhaps help any of you that might be struggling with the idea of sitting down at a table or socializing over this time. But know that these basic tips are and framework and are, I hope they help you. I hope they have given you just some new ideas and thoughts about conversing, because you shouldn't be scared. It is a lot of fun. I even got in trouble when I was young, more than one time, about chatting in school. I got detention, had to write lines about talking incessantly. I remember I didn't even know that word, so I must have been young, but I had to write lines, and the word "I will not talk incessantly" was in the sentence that I had to write 100 times. So it did not stop me, and I'm glad it didn't stop me, because it has helped me in life. It's a basic human function that we all have to learn and get through. And I think the better you get, the more exposure you get. And if you do really struggle, there are the Toastmasters groups that you can join to become good at speaking. That's more public speaking, but I think there are elements of public speaking that you can apply. Have a good holiday, everyone. I will see you after the season, and have a very happy holidays.